All right, this story is about two people, well, one ghost and one person. Okay, in 2019, uh, one of the young ladies in the adult entertainment industry, a dancer, heard about me and she wanted a reading really bad. So I said yes and all that stuff and did one of those sit down readings where I give them a candle and a coin and, a piece of silk to help them with their lives. But anyway, so the reading starts off 2019. She's about 20 years old approximately. So I think she's born in 1999. So in 2019, I told her that she would be in the adult industry for a long time. And she goes, well, I got out of high school. I started working in the business part time to go through college. I did 1 year of college and I found that I wasn't getting anywhere and that I was making more wealth as a dancer. I said, well, that sounds about right for the predictions that I was making about her past and I was going to her future. I said, well, it looks like you're going to move to a bigger city in about a year. And she goes to me, no, no, I really like it here and I'm doing very, very well. I said, well, maybe you meet somebody or something like that. I don't know what it is, but you do move. And it turns out COVID 19 comes to our city all over the world, and the business wasn't good for her, and she had to move to a bigger city. So I haven't heard from her, and I told her you usually get a reading well, not all the time, every 5 years is how far usually I can go in the future. And, even if you get a reading once in a lifetime is good, but every 5 years, I usually can do it again. And she said, oh, that's fine. And she ended up leaving. She ended up calling me and saying, "Oh, you were right. I have to leave the city due to the adult entertainment industry in the city where I'm born and she's from, and she'd have to move to a bigger city in order to accommodate her lifestyle." Which, anyway, so let's go to 2026 in January. She calls me up, and she's back to this city, and she's living in a house that has 4 apartments. And she's talking to me on the phone. She goes, "I'd really love you to come over." Because usually I have the people come to my place and I do the readings or I whatever I got to do. But she goes, "No, no, you got to come over. This is really strange. The drawers keep opening. The door opens by itself to my bedroom. I'm hearing strange noises, whispering." I said, "Oh, okay, I'll make a visit." So I end up going to her house. It's in the East End. Well, it's east of Adelaide. I'm not going to say the address. It's an old Victoria home, and there's 4 apartments. And I think she was in the middle. Yeah, because this was in January. I'm pretty sure she was in the middle. She had her own entrance and everything. It wasn't hard to find. I think it was A, B, or C, or 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that combination. Plus, I don't want to reveal the address. So anyway, I went in and I started to feel a real cold. That usually means right away, well, it's a big house anyway, it could be just a draft, but sometimes it means there's a ghost around. And she's like talking to me as I'm coming in. She goes, "Can you feel the draft? Can you feel how cold it is?" And I go, "Yeah, that's a definite sign of something." Are all the apartments like this? She goes, "No, I talked to all the other tenants and their apartments are fine." And so it looks like she was in the middle. This is important as well. And so she wants a reading as well. And she's telling me the drawers open by themselves. This door opens by themselves. It's hot and cold. Sometimes it does get hot in the apartment too, and then it gets cold really fast. And then she goes to hot water and cold. And these are all signs of a ghost that they can do stuff like this. So now I can't talk to all ghosts. Like sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. I really don't know how that happens. I have 2 angels that help me, and those two I can talk to. And they don't like me really doing this ghost, talking to ghosts and stuff like that, because it takes away from me helping human beings. Ghosts are ghosts. They get in the light, they go in the dark, they go where they gotta go. If they don't want to go, they stay in wherever this situation is. And that seemed to be the situation with this ghost. So, doing the reading, I got a hold of her hand. Once I open a portal from me and another person, it allows the ghost to contact me usually. And sure enough, it did. And it's like, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And I said, well, who are you? Meanwhile, I'm holding her hand, and she knows me. And I told her, I said, I'll talk to you and the ghost at the same time. This is going to be an awkward reading because there's going to be 3 people involved, and one of them you can't hear or see, and only I can. And she goes, that's fine, because she believes in what I say 100%. Even I don't believe in what I say 100%. But anyway, so I go on with this. And I ask him, I say, why are you here? And he goes, let me start from when I was born. I said, okay, let's start there. So he was born in 1883 or 84. Can't remember 100%. And he was in World War I. I think he was drafted. They implemented the draft. He was living in this house at the time. So this house looked like maybe over 150 years old. But it was finished. It was nice and everything. So, it was kept up well. And he got married, and he had 2 kids, or 3. And in the war, when he went to war, I think it was 1817 or 1818 or 1819 of the war, World War I. So he was a tinkerer, a person who, that bird that dives in the water, goes up, dives in the water, goes up, or those 2, the balls that you hit on one side, the other ball moves on the other, like there's 4 or 5 of them, steel brass. He was one of those kind of people. And so in the war, his platoon mostly passed away. Like that, they were killed in the war against the Germans. He was in the trenches. He was the only one left, he told me. And he goes, they kept coming, but he can't defend himself. He's the only person. So what he did was he put all these posts, as many as he could, with the soldiers' helmets on it. And then he would tie strings from one helmet to the next helmet on each one of these posts. And then he would just move a wire. So that way the Germans thought that there was a lot of soldiers there. And he had this set up on the other side too. And he was in the middle trying to manipulate the soldiers from not coming and attacking, because they thought, oh my God, they still have a full battalion there. And so his tinkering was good. They didn't all move simultaneously. They moved a little bit each. He did it rather well, he said. And then it was getting near the end of the war, and he was hunkered down there. And he never fired a shot at this time because he was too busy moving these parts. And then all of a sudden he sees the white flag, and almost all the Germans are surrendering to him. So he brings in almost a whole platoon of soldiers, gets all these medals and everything. He's honored and everything. And then he goes back to Canada with all these honors and everything. And he was treated very good in Canada, in his city and everything. And, he the house paid off, everything's paid off. His wife ended up passing away in the 1950s, I think. And he ended up dying in the 1960s or 1970s. Now, I said, okay, good story, everything like that. And he goes, well, about going to war, and then my wife and everything, I kept in contact with her constantly. So when he came back from the war, his wife would have been about 26, 27 years old. And he was in love with her more then than ever, because, almost dying, you start to realize what life is really about, which is really not a good thing. You should understand that life is life and enjoy it to the best of your ability, and not have to almost die to realize that it's what it is. So he loved his wife more than anything when he got back. Had another 2 kids. And I said, okay, that's all fine and dandy. What's it got to do with this young lady? He goes, she looks like my wife at 27. I'm the one opening the door. I'm the one whispering in her ear. And I said to the girl that I'm doing the reading on, has any felt anything touch you? She goes, no. He goes, I never touched her. I did whisper in her ear. And I said, what were the things that were whispered in your ear? She goes, like sweet things, like nice things. I said, okay, that's not that bad. She goes, what about the coldness? And I asked him, and he says, well, when it's hot outside, I try to make it cold in here for her. And I says, well, maybe you're making it a little too cold. This place has air conditioning. He goes, yeah, my first son owned it, then he gave it to my his grandson, and then his grandson. I was like, I think this is the fourth generation that owns this house. And I said, well, you know what? Try not to do that. And he goes, when it's cold outside, he tries to make it hot. I said, what about the water? She goes, it's hot and cold. She goes, it's very difficult with that because it changes quickly on me too, and then I try to change it back for her. So this ghost is trying to accommodate this young lady, thinking that, well, not looking like his wife. And he goes to me, he goes, where is my wife? I said, your wife probably went into the light. And he goes, oh, that real light, shiny thing like the sun? I go, yeah. He goes, am I supposed to go through that? I said, you're supposed to go through that when all your business is done from the worldly world that you came from. And he's looking at her, and he's like, she looks so much like my wife. Can I stick around for a little while longer? So I asked her, I said, he wants to stay for a little bit. And she's like, okay. He really doesn't do any damage. But she says, what about the drawers and opening and closing? And he goes, well, I used to tinker with the doors, and I used to throw these Halloween parties and, try to scare people by having the drawers open by themselves automatically with these little strings. And then I checked the drawers. There's no little strings or no like. He goes, well, it just happens when I want it to happen. And I said, I understand. So I asked him not to do that too much because it bothers her when she's sleeping. And she's like talking to me now, and she says, can you ask him to leave, really? I think my privacy is being invaded. And so I can not communicate with the ghost if I'm communicating with her and not let him hear this, because he can't hear everything that she says, especially when I'm in a reading. I can block that. And I said to her, I said, listen, this guy has not done nothing wrong. He's just here. He thinks you look like his wife. He's not hurting you. He's trying to help you in every way. He could give you some luck or some benefits from the other world. And she goes, okay, but I still like him to leave. And I said, he can't hear you now, but now that you know he's here, I would appreciate it if you didn't hurt him either. That would be nice. He's just a ghost. He's not hurting nobody. And he's just trying to help you. But I'll ask him to leave your privacy alone if that will help you. She goes, yeah, that would be nice. So I asked him. And he goes, I understand she's not my wife. She just looks like her. So I leave the situation alone in January, and I'm out of there. And last week she called me up, and she goes, the ghost is gone. He said goodbye, and I whispered goodbye in my ear. And I guess he went into that light. It's been there the whole time. He didn't know what it was. He said, I'm going to visit my wife. Yeah, that's my story for today. That's hard to believe sometimes, but it's true. And that's it for today. Talk to you later. Birdy signing out.